welcome. In this class we will be discussing the remaining questions for the NET examination for December 2015 Psychology paper 2. Now as we mentioned in the previous class, the paper this time was a bit tricky with lot of conceptual questions and lot of questions that focused on psychometrics. The first question here talks about the various concepts and the theory, the person who laid those theories. So the correct matches here would be masculine protest theory was given by Adler. Under this theory, he explained why girls tend to imitate like boys or do actions similar to boys. So that was what was given by Adler and was known as masculine protest theory. The next was the concept of hypercompetitiveness and morbid dependency. These two concepts were given by Horney. We'll be discussing these concepts in detail when we'll be covering the respective topics. So hypercompetitiveness and morbid dependency was given by Horney. Then you have the concept of impetus, instinct, drive. Those were given by Freud. And finally the rational functions or the concept of opposites given by Jung. Next question. You have the type of variables and you have to match them with the given examples. So now we know that intelligence is one of the continuous variables. So this is the correct match. Then pass or fail in examination is real, something that is real and is discrete. A student can either fail in the examination or a student can either pass in the examination. So this is something which is discrete, this way or that way. So we call it discrete. Now we have two choices that deal with discrete. One is real and another is artificial. So when we talk about real discrete, the answer would be pass and fail. When we talk about artificially discrete, it would be nationality. And finally you have the qualitative variable, which is voice pitch, which varies in quality. You cannot say in quantitative term how much it varies, but it definitely varies in qualitative terms. So it's a qualitative variable. Next question. In which of the following lobes of cerebral cortex is the primary olfactory cortex located? Olfactory relates to smell or what we can sense through our nose. So that is olfactory. And next is visual. Visual is what we can see. So what we can see is through the occipital lobe. And what we can smell or through the olfactory cortex is through the temporal lobe. So 2 would be the correct answer here. Next question. Factor analysis is used as a means of confirming a structured model than as a means of discovering a structural model. So here what is asked is not. So factor analysis first of all can be of two types. You can have confirmatory factor analysis and exploratory factor analysis. Under confirmatory factor analysis, what do you do? And under exploratory, what do you do? Let's look at this. So under exploratory factor analysis, we have various factors and we try to explore which of the factors would be best suitable. Under confirmatory factor analysis, what we try to do, we have set of variables or factors and then based on this, we define a new factor. And then we try to test whether or we confirm whether these factors are appropriate or not. So factor analysis can be confirmatory or exploratory in nature, but here what the question is asking is not about confirmatory factor analysis or exploratory factor analysis, but it talks about confirming a structured model under the theory of intelligence. So under the theory of intelligence, Thurston was the person who gave the concept of factors such that he had a very clear idea of the factor loading with respect to the various components. For example, under intelligence, let's say about mechanical aptitude. So he had a very clear idea of the factors underlying this and therefore he was able to confirm a structured model. So the correct answer here was Thurston. Next question. One focuses on the discovery of truth and interest that are empirical, critical and rational. That's the assertion. And the next is economic values focus on usefulness and practicability. Now both of these are given under the Allport's 6 types of values. So the second one is the economic value. This is the theoretical value. Then there were political value, social value, regional value, and so on. So both of these statements are correct that define the types of values given by Allport. So we can say both of them are true, but they are not explaining one another. So 2 would be the correct option here. Next question. You have a supervisor who was asked to rate the subordinates based on his observation, and he found that employee who did not take medical leave in that year. So there was one employee who did not take any medical leave, but based on that, supervisor said he was medically fit, highly efficient and meticulous. Now this is an example of halo effect. Under halo effect, what one tends to do is, due to an overall positive feeling or positive impression, it influences the feelings about that person or his work culture. So that is what is halo effect. Now this is a classic example of halo effect. Which of the following parts of basal ganglia constitute the stratum? Now basal ganglia is made of dorsal striatum, ventral striatum, then you have ventral pallidum, you have globus pallida, and so on. Now under dorsal striatum, you have 2 major components. Those are the caudate and the putamen. So 3 would be the correct choice here. Next question. Among the laws of perceptual grouping, law of simplicity is the tendency to. Now law of simplicity is also known as law of Prague's. So this is what is law of simplicity, and these laws are known as an ability to perceive complex pattern in terms of simpler shapes. Okay. Next, what is the role of positive and negative reinforcement? Now be it either positive reinforcement or negative reinforcement, both of these are aimed at a single feature, that is to increase the behavior. Now positive reinforcement increases the behavior positively, negative reinforcement removes the unusual or unpleasant stimulus, I could say, and increases the behavior. So both of them ultimately aim to increase the likelihood of response preceding, both will be repeated. So 1 would be the correct answer. Now you have to match the various lists here. So short term memory is a brief storage of memory. Then you have the elaborative rehearsal that goes under deep processing. Then you have the attention, then the information passes through a gate and is transferred to short term memory, and finally sensory memory is the temporary storage of sensory information. Next question. Which of the following, while forming a concept, one chooses to take one hypothesis and select many of its features quickly to form the concept at once? So that was the question. So when you are taking one hypothesis, it is successive scanning. In contrast to it, if you are taking many hypotheses, it is simultaneous scanning. Now under successive scanning, what happens? You take one hypothesis and then you work out the various features and you say this works, this does not, this works, this does not. So it's like a guessing game. You try to guess as much as you can and finally lead to a concept at once. So that is successive scanning. Under both of these, you apply the concept of focusing and focus cards. These we would be discussing when we will be talking about concept attainment theories. Next question. Which of the following are the final outcome of curiosity? When we talk about curiosity, it's the desire to know, to explore, to understand something. So there are 3 things. You have the instinct, drive and arousal. Now these 2, the drive and arousal, are the most important concepts. So drive, arousal, and finally to gain information or desire to know. So all these 3 would be the correct answer or the final outcome of curiosity. Next question. Now this is an interesting study even for kids. You have a hot water and you have a cold water, and in the middle you have water at normal temperature. So now what I am doing is, I am putting one of my hands in hot water and one of my hands in cold water. Then what I do is, I move the hand from cold water to the normal water and from the hot water to the normal water. What would happen? When I am moving my hand from the cold water to normal water, I would feel hot or cold. Now it's very simple to understand. When your hand is under cold water, your cold thermoreceptors are desensitized and the warm thermoreceptors get activated. As a result, when you put your hand in normal water, you will feel hot. On the other hand, if I am having one of my hands in hot water and I am moving that hand to a room temperature, water in room temperature, what would happen? Here my hot thermoreceptors or warm thermoreceptors are desensitized, but my cold thermoreceptors are active. So as soon as I put my hand here, I will feel cold. So if I move my hand from hot thermoreceptor to normal temperature, I will feel cold. But if I move my hand from cold water to normal water, I will feel hot. So the correct answer here would be 1. Next question. An accused is harassed and tortured until he confesses the crime. It is an example of negative punishment, negative reinforcement. What is happening here is, what is the unpleasant stimulus? The unpleasant stimulus is harassing and torturing a person. So what you are trying to do is, you are trying to remove this unpleasant stimuli, and what would be the positive response? The criminal would confess. So it's a kind of increasing the probability of confession of a criminal, and that is through negative reinforcement. Next, which of the following are not mnemonic devices? So mnemonic devices are those which help you to remember things very quickly. So peg words develop, from the words you develop some ideas in the mind and you remember those concepts. So those are peg words. They help you remember things quickly. Categorical clustering means you put things related to plants in one category, animals in one category, and so on. So you cluster information and that makes things easier to remember. So both of these are part of mnemonic devices. Now which is asked, which is not? So the answer would be C and D. That's 4. Now this is a classic definition of availability heuristics. What you do is, if you have seen something, you try to recall that and you have a good mindset about it. That product was good, or I have seen that in news. So advertising and media companies are frequently based on availability heuristics. That's correct, because people recall instances of being satisfied and expect this outcome to occur again and again. So both of these are correct and the reason is the correct explanation. So 1. Next, you have to match the devices with the body parts. So EMG tests the muscles, EEG tests the neurons, GSR tests the skin or the sweat glands. So you have galvanic skin response, and pupillometry is meant to test the iris or the dilation of eye muscles. The next is heritability. Now what you are trying to understand here is the concept of heritability. So under concept of heritability, what we are trying to understand is, it's a relative contribution of genetics in the variation of the phenotype. So I can say phenotype is a sum of genotype plus environment. So we can say heritability is derived for particular population is not correct estimate for other population, because it is specific for a specific population and a specific area. So you have different population have similar genotype but they experience different environment is the correct explanation for this. So both assertion and reason are correct, and reason is the correct explanation for this question. So this is how we understand the concept of heritability. Next question. So again under heritability, if the environmental factors increase, the heritability will decrease, while if the genotype factors increase, heritability will increase. Next question. Which of the following are correct sequence for auditory stimulus cortex? So the correct answer is cochlear nucleus, superior olivi, nucleus, inferior collicus, medial gallingulate nucleus would lead to finally the primary auditory cortex. So it's primary auditory cortex. Next question. Now you have quasi-experimental designs tend to estimate or provide an estimate about the casual impact of intervention on the target population. It can be of three types: non-equivalent control group design, non-equivalent comparable group designs, and time series. All these three can be applied to policy and program evaluation, and this is one type of quasi-experimental research, that is non-equivalent control group. So both are correct independently, but one does not explain another. Now you have a passage here where you have been given about a abstract thinking test, and what happens is you have a test, you have 5 options A, B, C, D, E. Now what you are trying to do is you are trying to do an item analysis by item remainder correlation. So you retain 60 items. Out of these 80 items, you are picking just 60 items. You are removing the remaining items. Then you are applying the various reliability coefficient methods. Then what you are trying to do is, you see that the Cronbach alpha coefficient is 0.9. This test was long and coefficient of alpha was also high. Then out of these 60 items, you try to correlate it with the already established abstract reasoning test where population was 500 and the correlation was 0.24 at 0.01 level, that is 99% on a NPC curve. Okay. Now, in the above context, which of the following is used to obtain item remainder correlations? So, point biserial is also known as the discrimination index. We will be covering these in detail when we will be talking about the various types of correlation coefficient. And point biserial relates a quantitative variable with a nominal variable, and here it tries to obtain information from the item remainder correlation. So whatever items are remaining, you try to correlate it with those. So the answer would be point biserial. Now you have a similar question which talks about inter-item. We'll see those later. Now here, Kudar-Richardson reliability would be same as Cronbach alpha, because those two apply more or less the similar techniques, and I could say Cronbach alpha is a modification of Kudar-Richardson technique. So it would be also 0.9, but split half reliability would differ from 0.9. So since you are breaking the test into two, 30-30, the amount of reliability would change. So the reliability coefficient would change. So split half reliability would be definitely different, but Kudar-Richardson reliability would also be 0.9, similar to Cronbach alpha. Now here what is asked is, you have to obtain the inter-item correlation. So inter-item correlation, the best method is phi coefficient, because it talks about one variable and another dichotomous variable. Dichotomous variable can be 0 or 1. So you are trying to relate between those two and you are trying to find out the inter-item correlation, that's between the two items. There what we were trying to do was, we were trying to find out the relation between the item and the remainder population. Here we are trying to find out relation between two items. So the correct answer would be phi coefficient. Next, now the Spearman-Brown's correction for split half reliability explains relation as 2x by 1 by x. Here x would be the alpha for short versions, it's short versions. So you have the original Cronbach alpha is 0.9, that would be 2x by 1 plus x. So if I solve it, it would be 9 plus 0.9x is equal to 2x. I solve it again, so it's 0.9 is equal to 2x minus 0.9x, that is 1.1x. So x would be 0.9 by 1.1, that's 0.818. So that the closest answer here is 0.82. So at this time, what would happen is the alpha for the shorter versions would be 0.82. And finally, the last question. From the paragraph, we can conclude that the new abstract thinking test has what kind of validity? Now here the validity would be concurrent, because concurrent validity, what it does, it takes out the validity for the new test and the established test, and it tries to find out the comparison of validity between the two. It compares new test with the expected test. So the correct answer would be concurrent, but concurrent you have two choices, satisfactory or unsatisfactory. So here what would be the correct answer? It would be unsatisfactory since it's 0.24. The correlation as in the last statement of the paragraph you had 0.24. So the correct answer would be unsatisfactory because since it's less than 0.5 it is considered to be a weak correlation. Correlations greater than 0.8 are considered to be strong correlations. So with this we cover the last 25 questions of paper 2. We would be covering paper 3 of psychology for the NET examination in the further classes. If you are having any doubts about the questions that we have discussed, you can leave those as comment below in the video itself, and we will be more than happy to solve any queries that you have. Have a good day ahead.